I like the landscape and I like looking at it. I enjoy painting it. The colors are such a contrast in design. I'm interested in the theory of colors and continue to, so it's just an enjoyment of the process. I'm just recording history. I am kind of a history painter, and sometimes it's a very nasty world. It's not always pretty. I'm not a romantic painter. I'm a realist, and I view the world, and I think I capture the events, the things that happen in a true form. And if they're disturbing and upsetting, at least you can enjoy it in a nice color tone. I like to capture some of that stuff in symbolic ways, and it just happens that the palettes are quite diverse. I've always made studies of trees, and clear cutting is a result of global commodities and destruction. I'm not an environmental group. I am brown peace on my own. I don't stand on a blockade. I can give a message to the world, and they can look at those things. Global warming is on its way. And if you don't get the 1% under control, if you don't make rules for them, they will screw it up. It's not a pretty picture, but I will make you feel what it feels like. And if it is disturbing and upsetting, and if it makes people cry, it should. But I will continue to paint this world, and they can't stop me.
I don't know, I think I've been a kind of an artist since I was young. I've always had dressed different, and I didn't follow any norms. I'm really interested in Native American storytelling, and I borrow a lot of the characters from particular stories. So a lot of my characters are strictly North American animals that my tribe would have encountered. I was experimenting with kind of creating my own animals, sort of having them morphing into each other. So that's what I was thinking about with the fearsome critter. I had all these little stuffed animals, these cute little things that nobody would think would harm anybody. And they're lined up. And then the coyote comes in, he holds one of the unicorns by the horn, and he's like, okay, I got this one hostage. It's sort of an irreverent piece. People have always called it like a dark humor when they describe my work. I have a bit of a sarcasm to me. I use the coyote a lot. My opinion is I think the trickster figure represents to Indian people what it means to be human, because the coyote has greed and gluttony. He plays tricks and he does a lot of foolish things. But on the other hand, he's also a creator, and he creates the world and he makes things happen. And I think that I really like that aspect of that character, that he's neither good nor evil. He's in between. And to me, that's what it means to be human. You're not just good or evil. You're in the middle,
My community in Alaska is 8,000 people. History in that land, there's over 10,000 years of my Tlingit ancestors living and being on the land there. And that created a very rich cultural aspect that when colonizers came through, they were drawn to it immediately. It's unique to the world, the whole Northwest coast. With that comes, I want the visual aspect of it, and that's all I want. I can have this mask carved in Indonesia by talented Indonesian carvers, and it looks similar for a lot cheaper, and then I can bring it back and sell it to the tourist that comes to Alaska for 50 bucks. Everybody wins, right? So that's the economy of culture, and it's generally based on that idea of, I love an aspect of your culture. I love the iconography of it, but I don't want to deal with the reasoning or the actual people are the source of that iconography. So that's, I love your culture. And that's what the basis of this work is. And it's taking something that you want and like, but not addressing the rest of what comes with it. And it is interesting to me, the idea of even like patriotism. And when we look at the history of the real history of the land here, America's stolen land. It is, all of it. Alaska was sold by Russians to the US. It's just funny that the indigenous communities left out of this often, always, in the conversation. And it's not okay. You know, my father was telling me stories of these signs in my community. These things were around, and it shows just these words in the sign give you an idea of the climate that these communities existed in. And oftentimes I love the ability to time travel through creativity and work, and just bringing this sign into neon format into today's ideas of our stores and stuff creates that immediately, I believe, anyways. So as a young artist, falling in love with the work and the conversation that's created by the artists that are part of this fellowship. So we have a new community we're addressing. We have new histories and new stories that we're telling. And it's important to have curators, educators, writers, all of these things involved in that process of sharing this dialogue.
I don't really consider myself a basket maker or a photographer or a painter or a jeweler. I actually consider myself an artist that uses the medium that best expresses an idea. The removal pair. They are woven with the Indian Removal Act of 1830 with photographs from my collections, photographs of Indian people, one standing in front of a landscape in Oklahoma, and the other one kneeling in front of the mountains of North Carolina. So these baskets represent both ends of the Trail of Tears, the ancestral homeland and the removal to Indian territory, and it also represents our duality of belonging to both places now. 39 is Indian Removal Act of 1830 combined with the images of 39 pair of moccasins. The 39 is symbolic because it represents the 39 federally recognized tribes in the state of Oklahoma now. I wanted to tie it to living people, and so I actually sent out an e-blast asking my friends and family to send me photographs of their moccasins. And so some people literally were at powwows and dances. They would take their moccasins off and photograph them with their iPhones and send them to me. And so I really love the fact that it's an item that has strong, significant historical ties to a tribe, to a family, but they were interpreted in this modern technical way. You know, this new technology, they were sending me these images that I was printing via computer on these splints. My work has always been about human rights issues, but this medium has actually fulfilled the goals that I set of trying to engage people's interest and to raise their awareness and encourage discussion. People literally, I mean, you can see them lean in. You can see them move forward and they want to touch it. I don't know if it's the tactile medium. I don't know if it's the imagery. I don't know if it's the puzzle of how do you do this. I don't know what it is. But I have had terrific response with people wanting to know what treaty, you know, what speech, what's being used here, why, really, that really happened? That happened? Yeah, and here's the effects of why it's continuing today. The goal of my work is really not for it to last 500-600 years. The goal of my work is for it to be a springboard for discussion and awareness today.
All my work kind of has been inspired by kind of these really profound moments in my life when I was younger, and I got to go on these month-long camping excursions in remote natural landscapes in Canada. I started to see myself in a sense more clearly without the distractions of the modern world. So a lot of my work really explores the questions of how is self constructed, and I look at that through lineage and history and culture. Coming from mixed backgrounds of having European heritage, you know, how do I fit in between these kind of opposing histories? Because it's such a personal body of work, I only kind of felt it fitting that I be the model for the images. I created these sculptural elements that, you know, take symbols from both sides of these cultures and kind of merge them together. Moments that are kind of dreamlike and odd and are surreal as well. I was interested in looking at this process of projection and light and what this did in combination with the body and kind of taking two living beings and merging them together. I took high-res digital images of animals that had resonance with Aboriginal peoples. I projected them onto my dad, so he is painted white to act like a screen. Again, curious of like, what's our relationship now with nature? I mean, most of it, you know, you might see on TV. People might not actually go out and experience or see the wildlife native to where they are. I was, you know, interested in these complexities of identity and what this meant with not just me, but with other people. So I asked friends that I knew to do a blind contour self-portrait of themselves, where, you know, you have a piece of paper in front of you and you look in the mirror, but you're not allowed to look down at what you're drawing at all, and you have to use one continuous line. I did an exact replication of it with wire. I suspended these drawings of these masks in front of my subjects' faces. So I was interested in looking at this idea of persona and these social masks that we wear. You know, I felt like I had a lot to learn, especially about my heritage and where I'd come from. I have many connections to all these people, and from all those people, that makes me a lot of who I am.